A small announcement. I hope everybody is having the lunch coupon. In case if anyone is not having, kindly collect it from the registration desk. Thank you. After the talk.
हाथ पकड़ लो, ये कट करना तो पड़ेगा। Hello, hello, yeah. You're all welcome here. On behalf of ACM Delhi chapter, NCR region, you are all welcome here for the talk by Dr. Gautam Shroff. He's a very eminent person. We are fortunate to have him here. And these days, many of you might be attending his course also. I'm not sure how many, but everybody knows about the course, and it seems it's a very popular course. I would like to introduce you by giving his brief biodata. Dr. Gautam Shroff is a Vice President and Chief Scientist, Tata Consultancy Services, and heads of TCS Innovation Lab in Delhi. He is also an adjunct faculty at IIT and IIIT Delhi. Prior to joining TCS in 1998, Dr. Shroff had been the faculty at the California Institute of Technology, Pasadena, USA, and thereafter at the Department of Computer Science at IIT Delhi. He has also held many visiting positions at NASA Ames Research Center at California, at Arizona National Labs in Chicago. And very nice thing is he is the recipient of Young Scientist Award from Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India, 1994. Dr. Shroff had published 30 research papers in the areas of computational mathematics, parallel computing, distributed systems, software architecture, software engineering, and information fusion. He has also written a book on enterprise cloud computing, published by Cambridge University Press in 2010. And I think this book is available freely on the net. That is what I have been told. Anyway, Dr. Shroff graduated from IIT Kanpur in 1985 and received his PhD in computer science from Ninsar Polytechnic Institute, New York. And I think his biodata is really impressive and very long. But today he is going to talk about his experience. The title about the talk is The MOOC Experience, a First-Hand Account. Welcome him and we'll start.
Thank you very much for inviting me here, Nilima. It's a pleasure to be here, especially since this is actually the first time I've been to DU after submitting my Stephens form around 30 years ago, which then I didn't actually take up because I went to IIT Kanpur instead. It's a great pleasure to be here. Okay, a little louder. You'll have to maybe increase the volume because that's how I speak. It's also a great pleasure to be here and speak after Sachin Maheshwari, who I know now for more than 20 years, since the day he came and picked me up from the airport when I was a young faculty returning from Caltech to teach at IIT. And he picked me up in the middle of the night and drove me to the faculty guest house. And since then, it's been a great pleasure to know him. And the other first is the first time I actually hear him speak, which is kind of odd because when you're at IIT, you don't go to each other's lectures. It was the first time I actually heard him speak, and that was also a pleasure for me. Let's see if this thing works now. Okay. It's figuring it out slowly. Yeah, it figured it out. And let me just start my other agenda of actually recording everything. I know you're recording it, but you're got into the habit of recording everything because of the course. All right. Just a second. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is my experience teaching this course, and just to tie it up to the previous lecture, Professor Maheshwari has taught many batches and few generations of students and has inspired them to do all kinds of great things in theoretical computer science especially. The question is, in spite of all his impact on students, could he have had much more impact on many more students? And could the younger faculty like Saurav, who have just joined a few years back, have actually more impact to many more people in India and across the world? And I think that things are changing to the point today where they can, and probably they should. And so that's what I'll talk about today. Just to link it to Turing a little bit, you see, I think Sachin talked about the theoretical contributions of Turing, but recently Christos Papadimitriou, which you ended your talk with, has suggested that the word "ture" should be added to the English dictionary to mean compute. So if we actually take that as something that will happen, then Turing means computing. To ture means to compute, and rightly so. In that sense, the applications of computing have impacted almost every industry in the world. Finance, obviously. I mean, your money, my money is nothing but bits and bytes. Majority of it definitely is bits and bytes. E-commerce, retail has been impacted tremendously. Health, I mean, you just can't go to a doctor without getting 5 tests ordered today, right? Biology, genome is all about computing. Biology itself is a computer. AI, definitely. A lot about computing and AI was begun by Turing, and to a certain extent, what we have achieved and what I'm trying to teach in the course is also about how this big computer, which is the internet, is allowing us to do things which were probably considered impossible many years back in AI. But I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about education. And the question is, to what extent has computing impacted education? If you take a teacher back, or take anybody back 100 years to Turing's time, I think they would not be able to execute their profession because the tools that they had available would not be there. I mean, most people today use computers like this, and if you don't have them, you just couldn't do any of the jobs I mentioned earlier. But you could go take a piece of chalk and go to a blackboard and teach. And that's been like that for hundreds of years, and ever since you had chalk and blackboards. And to a certain extent that continues, and that tradition is a strong tradition, it continues. But of course education has been impacted tremendously by computing as well. So learning, I mean, you can today go to the internet and get all these papers without the way I had to go to a library and look up citation indexes and then photocopy papers and then order preprints from other libraries if you didn't have that journal. That doesn't happen anymore. I don't know how many people need to even go to the journal section of the library. They don't need to. Open courseware from MIT and Stanford, NPTEL, the ACM Digital Library, all these have made learning extremely efficient today. But what about teaching? I distinguish teaching from learning. When teaching, the job is to make sure that somebody is learned, and learning is entirely self-motivated. To put it simply, well, I mean, to what extent have we got impacted by computers? I mean, is PowerPoint a replacement for the blackboard? Is all we can think of as a replacement or as an improvement? And perhaps that is it. In terms of how we teach, We either use the board or we use charts. Nothing much more, right? I mean, you could still go back in 100 years and teach today with the blackboard. What about scale? We still teach to students of, classes of size 50, 60. We still complain year after year that we don't have enough good faculty, we don't have enough universities, we don't have enough this, that, etc. But computing has scaled everything else in the world, so what about education? So until now. So I think this whole business of massive open online courses is possibly significantly changing education, and what I'll talk about is my own experience and some speculation on where this might go, maybe some radical thoughts in that direction, and maybe also an appeal to everybody to chip in and help, especially in India. Of course, it started off with the Stanford experiment last year. I think all of you may have heard about this. I certainly heard about it early last year about this time. By the time I registered for this course on machine learning at Stanford, it was too late, and the registration is shut. 160,000 people enrolled for the course. 20,000 completed. Sebastian Thurn and Peter Norvig were teaching this course. Sebastian did most of the teaching actually. But this was the first real big experiment, and the experience that yes, you could actually do this at this volume and scale and actually come up with this kind of a model. Then Sebastian, of course, had a slight differing of ways with Stanford in one respect, and got attracted to Google, where they were building the self-driving car, and so he joined Google, and he also started this company called Udacity, and started offering these online courses over there. So this course called AI and Robotics is something which I attended in March, March of this year, and I attended as a student. And I actually got a certificate, so this is what I get out of it. I get it something signed by him, nothing to do with any university. It's in blue because I took the trouble of going and meeting him and getting it signed. Otherwise, you'd get it in black ink on the computer. But then, in parallel, couple of other faculty at Stanford, Daphne Kohler and Andrew Ng, in particular, set up a startup out of Stanford. And their model was different from Udacity in the sense that they would syndicate courses from many different universities and not produce everything in-house. And that's how I got interested in this whole business of education. And what I did is I met both Sebastian and sorry, I got their photos there, both Sebastian and Daphne in April. And I asked them what would it take to do a course. But in parallel, I started talking to Pankaj Jalote here and Huzur and Sanjeeva at IIT, and said, why don't we do this? And obviously everybody is very busy, and since I'd gone through this experience, I thought it would be great to do it myself, and since I taught before, but this time to do it online so that I could do most of my work in my office or at home, and not necessarily have to take time off and go to that was my initial intention, right? It wasn't nearly, to teach thousands of people, right? So I said, let's teach a course. So they said, okay, let's put up a proposal. So I was doing work in analytics and big data. So I put up this proposal and people liked it. I went to Sebastian and said, why don't we do it at Udacity? And he said, you have to come and spend a month here and we'll record everything here. And I said, well, I don't have that much time and I can't go into the valley and sit there for a month. And Coursera people said, we have a platform where you can do it online, and you don't have to come here. So that seemed most attractive, and that's how this thing happened. So it was pretty much a step-by-step initiative. There was no formal planning, etc. IIT didn't even know what was going on to a certain extent. They said, yeah, you can go ahead and offer this online. We don't really care. Daphne, of course, insisted that we get some approval from IIT. So Huzur got approval from deputy director or whatever. And of course, Pankaj Jalote is the director, so he could give the approval. So there was no issue from that perspective. So that's happened. I'll talk about the course in a minute. But in parallel, Anant Agarwal, who many of you may know, at MIT started offering around the same time his circuits course in electrical engineering. online. And there are now a few courses available on edX, which is now the company which MIT started as a non-profit organization, whereas Coursera and Udacity are both for-profit startups. I have no idea where they're going to make their money, and neither does any VC, but they've funded them anyway, like they funded Google long back. And edX is a non-profit, and Ananta started that, and they also have a similar model. And last couple of weeks ago, I met John Mitchell, who I know very well for many years, but he's been appointed the vice provost for online learning at Stanford. So now Stanford as a university has recognized that online learning is an important thing that the university has to deal with, and they have started their own initiative called Stanford Online. So I'll briefly tell you, show you a little bit of these courses, what they look like, since for those of you who are not, by the way, any of you are my students? No, that's heartening to know, at least a few students here. Okay, so let's just go and take a look at, I think I have to connect, just give me a sec, I have to just connect to the internet. Take a second. Okay, so what I'll just show you is what the interfaces look like quickly, and hopefully that will give you an idea of what these things are like. Oops. Yeah. So let's take a look at this one. So this is Udacity. This is the course I took, and the way it looks is you'll find them very similar. This is a slightly slow, well, not inadequate connection on the photon. Connection is a bit poor. Okay, so this is how it looks. There's a lecture here, and the lecture will load shortly. And you'll hear, you can't hear him because the volume is a bit too low. He'll be writing on a board and writing some equations, and there'll be questions at the end of that, which I'll show you an example of later. This is how it works. So there are questions, there are problems, there are exams. Fairly straightforward stuff, right? Let's just go back. This is something I didn't want to show right now. Anyway. So then there's this course, which is my course. And I'll just log into that class, which all of those of you who are students log into every day. And I'll come back to this in a minute, but let's just talk about the course itself. This interface, of course, the students don't have. It tells you something about the course. So there are about 30,000 students enrolled, but not all of them are doing the course. So about only 9,000 of them are actually doing the course. The rest of them dropped out. Most of them didn't even attend one lecture. So about 20,000 of them have attended some lecture, right? So out of that 20, I lost 50%, and it's half the course done. So maybe I lose half more. That's perfectly fine. So what else happens in this course? I'll come to that a little later. Okay. And then we have Stanford and edX, which are pretty much similar. If we just go and take a look at what's happening in edX, see if that works. edX has, let's try to open another, that won't be too good. So what edX does is very similar. They have a bunch of courses from now a number of universities. MIT, Harvard, and Berkeley are the three that they got, and they have these courses, and it works pretty much the same way. And then we have Stanford Online, which has something fairly similar, and you can just go there and do these courses. So we'll just come to the implications of all this very shortly. I guess you get the idea. A lot of courses have now come. Andrew himself is offering a course. Now Stanford, of course, has this special relationship with Coursera. So some of the courses at Stanford are offered at Coursera, and some are offered by their own in-house initiatives. Two of them, Class2Go and Venture Labs. And so there's a lot of stuff that that is available now. So now the question is, what does this mean? And what is it actually, what is it all about? So first important thing is it's free and it's open to anybody in the world, right? What that means is there are a large number of enrollments. As you just saw, there are thousands of enrollments typically. The first course obviously had hundreds of thousands of enrollments. Of course, now there are many courses, so people are doing different things. So every course typically has a few thousand to tens of thousands of enrollment. But the other point is there are many dropouts. I mean, many people just sign up. It's so easy to just sign up for a course and then don't bother about it ever again. So like I showed you, 30,000 people signed up, and in the end, 20,000 started doing the course, 10,000 are still left. Similar experiences are there for everybody else. The model is, they're pre-recorded videos. So you record the video up front, and there are embedded quizzes. So this embedded quiz is something which is essential for learning. So let me just switch to that in a minute. Show what an embedded quiz means. Where did it go? Okay. So the embedded quiz, like while one is viewing a lecture, one will see suddenly a quiz like this, and you have to sort of answer that question before you can proceed. And by interspersing the lecture with these quizzes, you do many things, which I'll come to in a minute. But one thing that you do is you keep the students engaged. The other thing that you do is you prevent the browser from sort of going to standby mode. And the third thing that you do is you give the students a sense of accomplishment, that I've got something right, and that, at least when I did the course, I found that even to me extremely valuable, that I could see a tick mark. Yes, I got this right. I understand something. No, I didn't understand something, so I have to think again. Right? So that's pretty critical. Okay, now where did that? Yeah. Let's go back here. The third thing is that there are online homeworks and programming assignments. I'll say some more about this later, but they follow the same model as this quiz. There are multiple choice questions. There are multi-entry questions. You can even set up regular expressions. You can do various things. Not the greatest way of testing things, but you have to be a little creative to figure out how to test people's knowledge in this manner. And very importantly, there's a discussion forum, and that discussion forum is something I wanted to show you. So the discussion forum is actually an extremely important part of this course, and is also quite surprisingly. So there are a lot of people who say I love it, right? So I'll show the good news first, right? So people are going to say I enjoy this course, etc., etc., why I like it, etc. And then there are other people who keep complaining, and there are lots of them. And sometimes they have valid complaints, and many of you might also have valid complaints. So there are cribs. I'm dropping out. I don't like this course, whatever. Something new came up 6 hours ago. And then there are queries. Of course, I don't have anything because there are sub-queries for every week. There are week 3, week 2, week 1, all these queries. So these are genuine questions. And I'll say a little bit more about this a little later. But the discussion forum, in some sense, is essential. So the fundamental difference between OpenCourseWare, which is just a lecture, or like NPTEL sitting online, is these embedded quizzes, which again can be part of the OpenCourseWare. But the fact that it's going week by week, and a whole bunch of students are actually discussing a particular topic together, right? And there's lots of these people are discussing online, and most of them, of course, are not saying anything. They're just listening. But I think that by listening, and this was my experience when I did the course, just reading the discussion forum, I made maybe 1 or 2 posts, but just by reading, you would clarify a lot of your doubts, which you would otherwise have, got clarified by the instructor in class. So students help other students, in spite of the fact that they presumably are competing, right? So some social good happening over there. As a student, my experience was that there's a 2x compression. So a 1-hour video, rather expansion. So a 1 hour of online video took me 2 hours to view. Okay, it took me 2 hours to view that, right? Because the total online content may be 1 hour, but you sort of go through it, you go back, you do the quiz, And all that adds up. So it takes probably, I don't know if you guys agree with that, it takes a little bit longer than the actual duration of the lecture. Say 10 minutes, it will take 20 minutes for you to actually go through that. Second thing is these things gives a sense of accomplishment and achievement, and my suspicion is it's something like a game. There is a certain degree of gamification going on over here to the education that people are getting, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, that people are getting reward points of some kind and they feel happy, and that's why people play games. You get points for shooting somebody, here you get points for doing a quiz right, which is nice. And it's critical. There's a lot of animated discussion on this forum, a lot of interesting questions come up. I learned a lot of things. So for example, if you go to the course, I just learned interestingly that I think I have it open. Sorry, I don't need to do that. I can go back here. I just see I figured out that somebody online found out a better open source code to use than the one I was using, one which is much more efficient. I learned something too in the process. Only about 1% of the people, if you just count, I mean, hundreds of people are posting, but there are thousands of people online. So 1%, 2% are posting. The rest are just listening in, which is also good. The model we're following at IIT is, there is all lecture content is and assessment is going to be online. There are 4 or more, maybe at least 4 in-class sessions, but I don't go twice to both institutes. I go to either IIT or IIIT, and the other institute is remote on WebEx plus a call, which is efficient from my time perspective. So I go there physically. Those sessions are interestingly very different from the online discussion, and they do actually complement each other. So to a certain extent, I'll talk about this a little bit later also. The IIT and IIIT students will actually need to email me their code. The other online people don't need to. I'm not going to check everybody's code. So a little bit difference in the assessment. Their exam is going to be again online, the same exam, but they'll be sitting in a room and there'll be somebody making sure they're not cheating. So it's a flipped classroom model. So the flipped classroom is I never deliver the content to them personally, but I discuss the content. Now, others have followed this model within the universities for many years. I think at Stanford, of course, Daphne and Andrew have been following it for many years. That's how they came out with this model. Kannan Mudgule at IIT Bombay has told me he follows this model a lot after he was involved with IIT Bombay's distance learning program. He started following this flipped classroom model, and he found it very useful that he would use Moodle and video lectures to essentially let the students view the lecture before coming to class, and then only have discussions in class. And what I found when I went to class for the tutorials is that the discussions are much nicer because you don't have to worry about content time being taken away because of a discussion. You can take a discussion to its logical conclusion. You can talk about a variety of things which you would not include in the lecture. You can follow a thread. You can talk about Turing if that's the subject, or you can talk about something else, and you don't have to be worried about let's get back to finishing the content. So you can take the discussion where you want. So it's very useful. But there are many dropouts. So that's something which I find disconcerting to a certain extent. So 40% never viewed the lecture, maybe 50 didn't view it, remaining 50 didn't, actually there were 26,000 when we started, the 30,000 now. So people have joined after the course started. The other question we want to ask is, who are all these guys? So where are all these people from? Well, interestingly, there are a lot from India and a lot from the US. It's quite to be expected. Other countries are also represented. So there are people from Brazil, Russia, Italy, China, Germany. So very interesting mix of people. And there are many other countries. 19% are from small places which are adding up to 19%, but all less than 1% of the total. What is their background? I did a survey in the first week of the course, and this is the kind of results I got. Now, this is not a very nice. Statistically, it's a bad chart because there is duplication, right? So this is the total number of responses. So somebody could be answering two check boxes. It's just the sum total of the total responses. So even given that is the case, you're seeing most of them are actually developers or grad students, and some 10% are undergrads, and then there are research engineers, there are managers, 12% surprisingly. There are five or so, about 5% of the people from TCS, about few hundred people are there from TCS, which I expected. It's a popular subject for their profession. A lot of people work in software companies. A lot of people are students and self-employed, etc. So you get an interesting idea of who these people are. I haven't done the data analysis of who does better and who does worse, but I can because I have the data. Yeah, so I haven't done it yet. I just haven't had the time. But in the end, I'll be able to figure out who does better, right? And who has more problems, who posts more. All these statistics will come out at the end. And why are they taking the course? Well, many of them wanted to learn about this buzzword called big data. Many of them want to learn about AI, and many of them simply wanted to get a certificate. And of course, only the IIT and IIIT students, which is exactly about 0.73%, are the ones taking it for credit. So there's nobody else actually taking for credit, which I expected. So now, how many of you are faculty here? Okay, at least, oh, quite a lot. Very good. So let me talk about the other side of the experience, developing and teaching this online course. What does it take? First of all, it's lots of work. It's much more work than I expected. Recording a video initially took 10 times the amount of time of the video. So 1 hour took 10 hours to record, right? Now it's down to 6. And I got this from Daphne. Again, I met her a few weeks back in the Valley. And she said, don't be perfectionist. And you might notice this in the lectures that I've started making, etc. Earlier you'd sort of hum and haw and you'd say, no, cut it out, go back and do it again. So the perfectionism adds up, it really becomes a huge load. You want to be perfect when it's going on. And in class, if you, hand wave or make a mistake, it doesn't matter. You don't care about it. And you just go on because you can't turn time back. Here you can, so you do. But if you start being a little bit less perfectionist, speaking a bit faster, being your natural self, less. But it's still 6 hours for 1 hour, right? So it takes a full day to record a lecture, and that's after preparing the charts. So it takes another day to prepare all the charts, and that's because I've just finished writing a book on the subject, so I have all the material. Okay, so it's a lot of work. Quiz and homework creation takes time. There's a randomization which is going on. So each question has potentially many variants. Sometimes I don't give enough variants because I just don't have time to think of enough of them. But many variant answers also. So for each question, you're not giving one question, you're giving 5 or 3. And for each answer, you're giving 3 or 4 alternative answers and alternative wrong answers also. So all that takes time. And of course, setting it up is prone to error, which all of you who have attended the course have realized that often I make mistakes and I mark a correct one as negative, and then I get totally flamed on the forum, which is okay, but I mean, I'm human, I make mistakes too. And the discussion forum, it is a time sink. For the first week or two, I was reading every post. In fact, posts started coming before I announced the lecture by email. And the first post that I read was, the lectures had not even been started, just the first introductory lecture. Very disappointing course. Very first post, okay. Of course, all of you guys voted him down. Many votes, negative votes were given to that post. But that's the first one. So, many people can be nasty, needlessly so. You need to learn to ignore them. Otherwise, you can get emotionally affected by these guys, okay. And these people who are posting are the same people who post all over the net. They are not the 99% of people who listen in and want to learn. Many of them have genuine queries, but many of them just want to, I don't know, whatever. So you have to ignore that crowd. They are very diverse backgrounds. So if you start answering all of them, you'll start teaching them, mathematics, arithmetic maybe, right? Because some of them are sorry to say, I'm also a manager, but managers who may have forgotten how to add, right? But anyway, you need to let others answer them, and others surprisingly do answer them. Sometimes they answer them politely, sometimes not so politely, but they answer them. So they get what they're due, and we have to let them be. So I have one person who's helping me out, reading the forum. She reads every day. I don't read every day. I read when I have the time, and she tells me what to read. Right, and I tell her that if there's a discussion going on, or if somebody's posted a question which nobody's answered for days, then I'll maybe go and answer it. Otherwise, let somebody answer it. Right? Why should I answer everybody's question? Right? And a lot of feedbacks. I without having posting, I get a lot of feedback on how I speak, how I teach, and I improve a lot because of this. A lot of suggestions, and obviously the odd bug which I've not been able to avoid is also pointed out. And the discussion forums have a positive impact even on the in-class tutorial. So when you go and talk at IIT or IIIT in class, there's a huge positive impact because a lot of the simple questions are already answered. People are now asking deep questions, things which you're not going to get into either in the course or anywhere. They're asking, fairly deep questions, and which I expect from the IIT crowd. And I'm happy to say that at least one or two are asking those deep questions. And I'll probably next week will share some of those deep questions with the forum, because next week is actually a break. So halfway through the course, I've announced a break, which is because of I think one of the two have a midterm exam or something. One of the two institutes have a midterm. So I had to have a break. So we'll have more discussion. And the other thing I figured out is these guys who are in class, they know that they're going to see me. They don't post, and they post occasionally. They need prodding because they know they're going to get me to answer if there's something. So the in-class experience is in some sense contradicts the online experience to a certain extent. Assessments. It's primarily, I think, a learning enabler, and it assesses participation rather than achievement. So I really don't think that achievement is going to get easily measured by the online assessment the way it is today. It measures the fact that the person participated because the person has more than one try to answer the question, even though a new question may come up. So I don't know how much it measures achievement. Even my experience was when we did the course, at least Sebastian's questions and quizzes were fairly straightforward. So I was not able to measure. I don't think that my having got high distinction is a measure of achievement in that course by what we mean by achievement from, say, IIT perspective. Having said that, it's a 1-credit course, so I hope people won't bother about it, and we'll deal with that grading issue. But a 3-credit course, this achievement model, I personally have some doubts as to whether one needs to work much harder to make the assessment stronger and tighter. Maybe I'm not just working hard enough, but I think that's an important point. And we still need proctored and timed exams. I think MIT is offering proctored exams. Udacity is offering proctored exams in all parts of the world, tying up with ETS and other people. So that's required. So some amount of that is going to be required. But that's an open area. From the faculty perspective, well, why bother with all this extra work? Why am I bothering? I'm not even faculty, right? I mean, I have a full-time job dealing with customers and dealing with R&D and doing all kinds of crazy things. So why am I doing this? Reach. The same reason you write a book. Just count the total number of students as a faculty you might have taught in your career. You're likely to have teaching that much in one course. Certainly I did. Certainly the younger faculty, I'm sure, sure you're not taught tens of thousands of students of yet. Sachin may have, but maybe not tens of thousands. Life isn't that long. So, the reach, the fact that you can reach that many people with your take on a subject is the power of this model. Visibility, and look who else has massively online courses. Well, there's an automata course by Jeff Ullman, there's an algorithm course by Sedgwick, and there are others, not just by the geeks. There's Introduction to Sociology, right, by somebody at Princeton. I don't know all these people. There's somebody at Wesleyan about economics. There's somebody on health, nutrition. So the number of courses in the varieties, it's not just computer science, it's all over the place now. And time. Presumably, and this is a speculation since I'm not, I haven't seen the second round of this course, but next time around when this course is offered again, I don't have to create the lectures. I just have to monitor the forums and update the lectures and maybe add some more variations to the question answers, and it should be much less time. So presumably faculty, if they do this right, can teach the course, and then have more time for research, which they all complain about, right? So some more reflections now. I mean, some broader reflections on this whole experience. about education. One thing that I've come to the conclusion, which all of you probably agree, but you know, it has been brought home to me now, is higher education is all about brand. It's all about brand. It's all a brand issue. Okay, if this course was being offered, you know, by from some server, from some startup somewhere, there won't be anybody. It's because of the momentum, because it started with Stanford, because it started with so many other universities. Coursera itself has become a brand. Stanford is a brand, and IIT is a brand, right? I think all that is very important, right? I think if it was me alone teaching TCS, maybe not. IIT, triple IT, Coursera, add it all together, the subject itself, it becomes something attractive. Having said that, Stanford Online offers courses by their faculty only. Udacity wants to create a university of its own, you know, of its own courses, all produced by people, maybe consulting from universities, but the IP is all owned by them. In this case, the IP is owned by me, right? So the author retains the IP. In Udacity, no, you know, it's owned by the company. And edX and Coursera, one non-profit edX and one for-profit, are the only ones actually syndicating content from other universities. So they are taking from everywhere. They also have a quality bar. So for example, this is something which I took from a post which John Mitchell sent me last week actually. So, you know, despite 120 universities having approached edX and 180 on the pipeline for Coursera, Coursera has only taken on 17 and edX has only taken on 3, right? Harvard, Princeton, Berkeley. Firstly, who makes this is the whole issue. The question we ask is, I was asked this question, is DU a good university? Is Hyderabad a good university? Who do I take? Who makes the decision? Daphne, Andrew, Anand, they make the decision, they take advice. So they have to process this pipeline, they have to assess, they are making the decision, they want to maintain their own quality and they're making a decision. They don't know China, I mean I don't know China. If you give me 10 universities in China, I wouldn't tell, I know Tsinghua is great, but I don't know the rest. You know, but India they don't know, there's so many, Delhi, Hyderabad, Pune, which one is better? They don't know, we know, maybe we have a judgment. And only my judgment is different from your judgment. So this is not a good process. This is a fundamentally error-prone process. And the second thing I learned is that a large number of people apparently want to learn, which is heartening. I mean, I was when I first saw 100 tweets about the course, I was happy. I said, "Wow, 100 tweets." Then I looked at the admin interface and found that 1,000 people had registered, and I was very happy. 1,000 people registered, and then it just kept going. I was amazed. I didn't realize that so many people would take the course. And Pankaj Jalote, when I went to meet him after the course started, he said, "Yeah, you probably have a few hundred people outside Triple IT doing this." And I said, "Add some zeros." He said, "Yeah." I mean, he was surprised too. In spite of the fact that there is no certificate for all you guys who are not from IIT or Triple IT, they're still doing the course. They're still wasting their time, or, you know, not wasting, but at least spending their time on answering questions for other people and doing the lectures, etc. People want to learn. Presumably that's a good thing. But there's other factors at play, I suspect. I mean, there's some business of gamification here. You know, people feel happy to have earned these points or these badges or whatever they feel that they've got, and some people are just showing off, right? Small numbers, right? But, you know, I think it's not negative. I think it's important to understand these aspects of teaching and learning, which are coming to play. And then, what does it mean for higher education in general? On the other hand, one hand, we have free and open quality courses on these massive open online platforms. On the other hand, we have cutoff mania, which is most prevalent in this particular university, which comes in the papers most often. So we have probably 600 universities in this country, a little more. We have 3,000 or more, 3,500 or so maybe engineering colleges, and apart from obviously not DU and not Hyderabad and not Pune, but, you know, there are many universities who are, I don't know, I mean, many colleges which I don't know. I mean, there are many of them, I would say the majority are of questionable quality. IIT entrance is fantastic, 1 in 50 at least, but there's a coaching class problem. once you have the centralized examination, whatever you have, anybody will crack it. Right? It'll get cracked. There's no doubt that it'll get cracked. You keep changing it, it'll get cracked. Because there are lakhs of people taking the exam, there'll be enough money to be made to crack the exam. So the coaching class culture will come in whatever you do. I mean, whether you have 2 tests, 3 tests, it doesn't matter, right? And then you have, the class 12th problem, everything, the percentages are going up, and you have this, 2 years, not this year, last year we had this issue here, 100% cutoffs, you're all familiar with. So there's a problem here, and the problem is you're controlling access to education content when, on the one hand, the best people in the world, at least some of the best people, I don't consider myself the best or anything, but some of the best people, Jeff Ullman, Sedgwick, etc., they're making it free and open. But our open education is not sought after. I mean, there are the courses at IGNU, for example, are not sought after. There's no brand, and there's this tag of having done a correspondence course, but there's no tag of having done a correspondence course with the course on edX or on Coursera. So what is the the social mindset which is prompting this? It is fundamentally brand. If IGNU course was an IIT course, it would still have the appeal. If an IGNU course was a Stanford course, it would have the appeal. It's the brand, and the brand is created by people, by gems like Turing and gems like Sachin, who have spent their life teaching generations of students. That is what creates the brand. Okay. Still, there is a tremendous enthusiasm for these MOOCs, and having said that, now let me take the other hat of the employer's perspective. Apart from the top universities, my experience and our experience in TCS definitely is that where you got a degree from, apart from IIT or whatever, they are not a good indicator of quality. I mean, whether somebody comes from University A or University B, I can't judge their quality by the university name, except for the top. Right. So I need something else. So to a certain extent, students having successfully completed the right massive open online course, we are now working on making sure that they will be given preference at the time of recruitment. We know that assessment is bad, but it definitely assesses participation. So if you've completed the course and done all the quizzes, there is a 50% chance that you actually participated and did that. It's better than a 0% chance. Right. So I think that we're going to start using these, and we're already getting applicants saying I've done this course or done that course, and we take that positively while recruiting. It's also a boon to us as a company for our own people who have tremendous problems pursuing courses because they have to go to IIT, they have to take time off, and they're sitting in another city like Lucknow or Hyderabad, maybe Hyderabad now, but certainly other cities, they don't have IITs next door, they can't go to the college and take the course, so there's a gap. So now they can attend this course at Stanford or at MIT or whatever. So it's a great boon for the working class, I would say. I mean, working class in a not the working class, but the professional working class. And it's a model for in-house training. So training like what we do in-house on our project management practices or our software development principles, practices, methodology, how to do billing, how to do this. I mean, everything that makes the company run. Experience in selling, cases of dealing with customers, all this is proprietary, internal to the company. The best people to teach this are never available because they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. And the best people who teach this can now actually make that knowledge available to the rest through this model internally within the organization. And lastly, I want to spend some time on degrees. How much time do I have? No problem. Okay, 15 minutes, no problem. You still need degrees. But I would say you need degrees for a passport, for a visa from most countries, not necessarily for quality. Quality can be assessed differently. That's the point I want to make. I mean, degree is something that I want to deconstruct in the next chart as to what does it actually mean. And this is a very blunt statement. Most of the teaching shops in this country are offering degrees for a price because the employer here, and I'm going on the web saying this, needs a guy with a degree, otherwise he simply won't get a passport, he won't be able to go abroad to do his work or even travel for whatever is needed. The country is not going to wake up, government is not going to wake up, so degrees are going to remain for a while, but not necessarily for quality. Quality can come from other measures of assessment. So let's deconstruct a university degree. versus a massive open online course. What do you get in university? You get content from great minds. You get mentorship, both from great minds as well as your fellow students. You are able to get assessed. You get a peer group. You get into IIT. There are books been written which say that's all you get, which I don't agree with. Some of the ex-IITians have written such books in the past, and some novelists as well. But that's not all you get. But certainly the peer group of having been part of this crowd is valuable, and that's why people decide to go to A versus B, because you want to be part of that club. Then the brand, you get this stamp of approval that you're from X university or Y university, and that stays with you throughout the career. The peer group is separate, the brand is separate, goes on your resume. And very importantly, you get life skills. Life skills like how to deal with people, how to deal with disappointment, how to deal with success. Many people meet their wives and husbands in the college. You cannot do that online, but maybe I don't know. Maybe you will. I don't know. Let's go one by one. From content perspective, enough experience is there to show that the flipped classroom is fundamentally better. You have physical interaction, but if you have it online beforehand and a discussion, you get deeper interaction, you get more time to do that, even if you have less contact hours. The embedded quizzes definitely enhance learning, both from a student perspective and from what I hear from my students right now. And the content is being created already. I mean, we have NPTEL, we have all these lectures, we have many people. So, the content is there. The NPTEL lectures will not work online, believe me. They have to be redone, they have to be, clipped, edited, all that. But if somebody wants to do it, I think it can be physically done, right? It can be interspersed with someone else's comments, with gaps, etc. So, there's probably a lot to be done in using not just your own content, but using somebody else's content. There's a huge, I would call it, ego barrier to be surmounted by saying that I will take somebody else's course and make something out of it. Why didn't you do it yourself, right? Well, I think we all have to go beyond that and start doing that. I mean, why do people write books about Turing rather than write books about what they did? Because they have it's a great mind. You write about him. So you take somebody's course which may not be in the right format, make it in the right format. It's worth doing. It's a lot of work, but right? Class discussions scale. So the biggest problem with online education or distance education is, what do you do about interactivity? What do you do about question answering? What we have learned in this process is that students help each other, and that model scales. So you can fundamentally now teach thousands rather than dozens. Second point is, in-class still adds extra value, and it adds more value now because of the online. Because you can go deeper, the IIT students are getting more than the online people. They are, because they're getting a level of discussion which we have in class in the 1.5 hour tutorials, which is deeper, which goes into things which we would never have time to go into online. Cheating. Huge cheating is possibly going on. I don't know and I don't care, because I'm not going to issue a degree or a certificate. But I think the other problem is that it's lots of work, and the depth to which you can assess through these multiple choice or even the regular expressions and numerical questions is limited. And I think we need to do more. There is potential for a new model for assessment, and I think there are some people who have done that in this room, and we'll hear from them a little later, hopefully. Technology-wise, I don't know how to do it. The other thing is statistics, and I'll come to that in a minute. For the first time, you have digital data about people's performance on different types of questions across different courses and different professors, and you can crank the numbers and figure out and learn something from that. There's no peer group today in online. I mean, either you're doing the course, you're not doing the course, right? I mean, there's nothing like you're doing the course but you're separate, unless you're physically at IIT, right? That's the same old peer group. But even in a university, the only thing which is controlling peer group today is admission. I mean, you have this coaching classes are killing, which is anything large, And I'm pretty convinced that, you know, the more coaching classes prevail, the less will be the success of the admissions process of making sure that we have high quality. So, you know, peer group is still not well done. I mean, I think it's there. I mean, it's great to get into Stephens or get into IIT or get into some other good college, but it's still an imperfect procedure of getting in. I don't know exactly how to do this, but I think that, you know, this whole business of gamification, that you earn badges, the diversity of courses that you have where you can earn badges or earn some kind of recognition, if it gets you into a peer group, nobody's done this today. They're all thinking about it. If it gets you into an online peer group, it could provide a different avenue for peer group. You get into this peer group because that peer group admitted you. And that peer group admits you based on what they decide. Like a frat house to a certain extent, but not in the rowdy sense that the frat houses are in most parts of the world. But in the sense that, yes, I want, you know, the guys who in this peer group. So there could be a peer group for just the really, you know, really bright young students. There could be a peer group for those who are executives trying to learn this subject. And they meet other executives trying to learn this subject, and they network and learn about something outside the course. They learn and network with each other in that peer group. And they're admitted because of, not only because of their performance in a course, etc., but who they are. So there is, I think, potential for the social network to evolve beyond you know, socializing for the sake of connecting with friends on Facebook or with recruiting on LinkedIn, to peer groups of different kinds. And I think online courses will be one direction where this is going to evolve. Diversity is another thing, I mean, which I'll come to a little later. The fact that you have so many people teaching all these courses, maybe more, 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 algorithms courses, means that there is a certain diversity, and you're not going to get a coaching class for Sachin's online course or Jeff Elman's online course or Sedgwick's online course. It doesn't scale to have a coaching class for that, because you'll have to have a coaching class for every course. And then the coaching class industry will not be able to make money on that. And that diversity itself will prevent coaching happening. Hopefully, I don't know. Legacy brands still operate at the course level. So the Stanfords, the MITs, the IITs will still be brands for the foreseeable future. The other problem is that there's limited competition, in the sense that, you know, we don't know whose course is better, right? I mean, I'm sure Sachin can offer an automata course, so can Jeff. I think he can offer an algorithms course, and so can Sedgwick. He'll have his view of doing things, they'll have their view of doing things. He'll teach it in one way, teach it another way. How is the student to judge? Not just statistics on performance, but statistics on surveys. What did you learn best from this? Let the faculty themselves make their own surveys and publish. And the student who wants to learn this way versus that way. In this particular course itself, there's a debate going on between this course and Andrew Ng's machine learning course, which is happening in parallel. Well, the answer is that if you want to learn every technique in machine learning properly, do Andrew's course and spend all the time to do it, because he does it much better than me. But if you want to get a big picture of not just machine learning, databases, information theory, AI, everything, a wafer thin layer, as somebody said on the forum, but deep if you want to go, then do this course. So it's a question of what you want. So every course will have a different way of teaching a subject, and I think the statistics, not just on performance, but on surveys and the questions people ask about the course, and some degree of knowledge about that will help people choose. Of course, there's a problem. There might be too much choice, right? You don't know where to go. If there are 50 online courses for automata, then they may not be ever, but if there are, there'll be trouble choosing which one. You'll go back to a legacy brand, you'll go back to hearsay, word of mouth, Facebook, and talk about it. So there's no real solution there. Well, life courses, well, they don't offer any life skills in the traditional sense, but I mean, if today's youngsters, their life is Facebook anyway, so if that's all life is, then maybe it's okay. You learn your life skills right there, online. So where do we go from here? And this is why I'm going to make some radical statements. My belief is that higher education especially in India, should be free and open to everybody. Definitely free, so that you don't have the shop, because the shop can't make money if it's free. Full-time students need to get admitted to some university for the variety, for the reasons, they still have to do that. And small number of students will still get to be with the best, right? They will be able to meet, the Sachins and the Naveens and the great teachers at IIT, and Saurav, of course, and Bala. But everyone will get to hear from and learn from the best, right? Even though they don't get to meet them personally. Part-time and working students, or working class, I would like to call them in this case, like the thousands of people in the IT industry and other industries, they'll have equal rights. Today, they don't have the right to learn. They just don't have the ability to go and attend a course in the middle of the day or middle of the morning. They just can't do it. They are doing other things. They would love to do that.
हेलो 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 ऑन ऑफ कहाँ है इसका? ये तो बाहर से करवाया है। चलो क्या? हेलो 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 आ रहा है क्या? नहीं वहाँ नहीं आ रहा ना। हेलो 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 हेलो
Okay, fantastic.
हेलो
Okay, let's get started again. Okay, so let's get started once more. Get this up on the screen again. So where to from here? Free and open education for all. We went through this. Proctored assessments are going to be critical for, if we solve the problem of depth in assessments, which I think we will, using statistics and some deeper way of doing online assessment, some creativity is required there. Proctored assessment can be available for a fee. Existing university infrastructure is already being used. MIT and Stanford are already doing this. IGNU can be put to use. Done? Okay, we're all set. Start again. Okay, so builders can probably set up assessment centers instead of colleges. Now the other question is, big question is, who owns your results? Do you own them? Does Coursera own them? We don't know. And quality control. So clearly brand and quality control is important. We need some form of self-regulation by the university. So I mean, you can't leave it to one person or 3 people who are heading a startup to decide what is a good university. It's just not going to work. So you need some way of doing this, which is a little bit more organized, yet not bureaucratized or top down. So a social network of teachers. And this is what I talked about John, and then he said that's a great idea. A social network of the teachers who are teaching online, who will assess the peers who come online. So it becomes in some sense a university, not Stanford or MIT or whatever, but everybody teaching online is themselves a peer network, and they've crossed the first barrier and they can assess the rest. And they're all smart guys, and they'll figure it out. And of course, we've also talked about this, the opportunity to focus on research and let the best teachers teach. So you can have great faculty who may be terrible teachers, and we all know many of them. And if we are able to scale, why have them teach? Let them do great research. Give them the time, and let's not have these crazy requirements that you have to teach this course, that many courses, or whatever. And degrees and certification, well, you can give some lesser piece of paper, like Stanford is planning to offer an online degree or certificate or diploma or something, which is a lesser in some brand value than the physical online, and charge a fee for that certificate if you want it. If you just want to do the course and learn, fine. If you want the certificate, you pay a bit. And you can get a real degree from somewhere for just to keep the governments happy, so that you can get a visa or a passport, no problem. And you can go ahead. So the question is, how do we go there from here? There's an opportunity. So first of all, Coursera, edX and all are allowing and will allow some, definitely the IITs and some other good universities who are, they pretty much regard them as good without further debate, and I'm sure they'll learn more as we go along, that there are many other good universities in the world. And so just do it. I just got an email this morning from faculty, young faculty at IIT Madras, and he wants to know how to do this, and I'm getting questions like this from other universities. And right now the model is you talk to Daphne, convince her or convince Andrew, and go ahead. But that's not the only model. Or talk to Anant and Agarwal and convince him. But right now when we're getting started, this is the first course, quote unquote, from an IIT, because I'm not actually employed by IIT, but still it's from brand wise. And from India, but there should be, I hope by the end of the year from now, at least a dozen such courses online from India, at least. And we just have to do it on the existing platform, and let's not worry about anything else. Okay, the challenge is the faculty needs to be convinced that they have to do the extra work. Administration needs to be convinced to the extent that they don't put a spoke in the wheel and say you can't do this. And hopefully they won't, having seen a little bit of what's going on around the world. But the India problem is actually much bigger than we think. It's not this, right? It's not the web intelligence course or the automata course or the algorithms course. It's the basics. The basics are just not taught properly. Not even, the people who get in have not gone to high school properly. Forget about undergraduate education, right? Who's going to do that? Where is the motivation to do that? So that's the challenge I don't have an answer to. I don't have the time. I know how much time it took to prepare this. I or anybody else who's done high school reasonably well could probably do a good maths course for high school, but who's going to do it? Who's going to do it in Hindi or Gujarati or Tamil? So these are big questions. But the fact is, it can be done. And exploiting the power of people to do it and letting them do it is very important. So for that reason, and not because I say Coursera is different or is US or whatever, or Stanford has created their own platform and MIT has their own. For these other reasons, the India problem is much bigger. We do need our own platforms, and maybe many platforms. And data sharing and ownership of student and performance data, I think fundamentally needs to be decided by the community, and at some point of time, there probably needs to be some degree of peer pressure to make this happen. I don't want to say legislation because I don't want to step into those territories at all, but definitely some peer pressure to make this happen. Good news is that Stanford's platform is open source, and you can download it. It's not as good as Coursera's yet, but they're working on it. We have downloaded, and we're trying to enhance it ourselves and contribute back to the platform. And you can do that and contribute back. Don't make your own platform. Just contribute back to John Mitchell's platform. It's good. It's a good move. It needs work and a lot of work to host it. So certainly somebody has to host it. So we'll probably start something where we can host it, and pretty soon. Cloud is a must. You have to use the cloud. You can't have thousands of videos streaming without the cloud today. It doesn't work. It won't scale. So you have to do that. It will require a little bit of money, but not too much. Okay, we'll be able to pay for it. I mean, industry will be able to pay for it. So we'll do it. Right? Are there any takers? Please write to me whether you want to teach on Coursera. I can introduce the people to Daphne, Andrew, Anand, whoever you want. People want to help develop the platform, open source. Let's get started. We're already doing this in-house in TCS. Create a community of developers. Everybody should contribute. It's open source. You can join the community, learn to use it, host it yourself on the cloud, wherever, do what you want with it, create a platform, and start using it. Most importantly, the faculty have to start, feeling motivated to teach not just the dozens, but the thousands. And once they start doing that, I think this can become a pretty good movement. Last but not least, I think this is going to happen bottom up, if at all. It's not going to happen by the governments or the administration making a committee and taking a decision. They should make the committee and take the decision anyway, right? But that's not going to happen unless everybody gets up and does it. So, I'm not a teacher. I used to be, but I'm not employed as a teacher. I just did it. So just go out and do it. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you. Okay. Questions? You want a mic maybe for her? You want to take this mic?
So, Gautam, what's the difference between your recorded lecture and if you were teaching at IIT and we live recorded it? What's the difference?
I think the best way to answer that, if you have a few minutes, let me connect again, is to just show you, right? The difference. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but if I put the mic near the machine, I'm sure you'll be able to hear it. So I think I'll just go and let's go to a video lecture. Okay, and I'll show. I think I'll show the first lecture because it has something to do with Turing. Since we're here, so I talk about something called the reverse Turing test, and I'll show you in a minute what it means. Just go to the middle somewhere and show you. Oops, it didn't. Oh. Got to figure out that there's another display, and I should figure it out soon. What happened? It's not figured out yet? Just a second. No, 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 no. Okay, I think what I have to do is, okay, let me answer the question without showing you, since in the interest of time. The difference is that, you know, when you speak like I'm speaking now, I speak much faster, number one. I am not that precise, right? I have not thought through things completely, and I sort of think as I go along. And that experience is quite different from the one online, where I've actually thought through things fairly carefully. I know exactly what to say. So I say the same thing, the same information content, if you guys remember my lectures, is said in far fewer words than normal. So, you know, as I mentioned in one of my lectures, information content, we try to speak with uniform information density. So in the same amount of words, for the complex concept, we'll take twice the amount of words. So online, we don't do that. And that's why there's a 2x compression, number one. So I say it precisely, but actually, while I'm saying it, I would have used twice as many words to do that. That's one. And the second difference, I think, is that the experience that a student gets, speaking from a student perspective, is that I'm able to, there's a rhetorical question being asked, right? A question saying, okay, do you understand this? Can you answer this quiz? And if I'm in class, either I get it or I don't get it. And if I get it, there's one bright guy in class, as you have experienced probably, will say, yes, I got it, I give the answer. And 50 of the other guys or 20 of the other guys didn't get it, and their poor guys think they're lost. No, they are forced, if they choose, to get it by going back, reviewing that material, did I get it right, and answer it right there and then. And that enhances that process of learning.
I think many of the questions regarding the role of universities you have tried to address very nicely. So I have a little bit of a different comment. So I see this evolution in the sense that, let's say, when in society we went from plays to movies. Okay. So I see a very similar analogy here. So plays and street theater, all the people who are performing locally. When we went into the movies which scaled better, where you could record somewhere and take it all over the country or all over the world, which essentially saw a lot of reduction in local talent in terms of acting local talent. So on one hand, this particular media is democratizing in terms of access to knowledge. But now with the superstars, just like our Salman Khans and Amitabh Bachchans, so these new Salman Khans and Amitabh Bachchans of education world will emerge. They will definitely emerge because there's no stopping, okay? So because this access is very high. On the other hand, if the teachers in the local communities die down, because they now don't see an opportunity, or even the talent, even today we lament what is the talent going into teaching, and that talent going into teaching is definitely going to reduce with this. So what is your comment on mentorship which these teachers provide to the students? Okay, because this is a distributed mentorship pattern which today exists because of these teachers in local communities, and a lot of talent not going into teaching because of this presence of superstars. See, we have seen the demise of the plays. Plays exist in a very, very small setting, dominated by the films which scale very well. Okay, I see a similar, let's say, challenge to this technology and also challenge to society in that sense.
No, I agree with you that that is a potential danger. That if you can learn algorithms or automata from Sachin Maheshwari, why do you need Nilima to teach you? Right? Let's be very clear. And why should anyone do a PhD and so that they can teach here if they don't need it? So these are very valid questions. But I think you have to turn it upside down to a certain extent, because Sachin cannot be here and at IIT and everywhere else to physically meet the students. I mean, I'm right now at IIIT and IIT Delhi on a WebEx. It's not going to scale to 50 universities, right? It may be scaled to 2 or 3, right? That physical interaction, I do have to go once here and once there, right? And I could very well be teaching if my ego allowed me, it's very important. I could be teaching Jeff Ullman's course if I was able. I don't think I was able, but I mean, I could potentially be teaching somebody else's course from the content perspective and adding my discussion forums online. At the same time, I could be developing my own take on that course, maybe not as a full course or maybe as a different variation of that course for my own visibility online. It may not go on edX at MIT, it may go on some other platform, it may be in a local language, it may be in a way which relates to people locally better than somebody else, and then ultimately students have a choice. So I think that there is a degree of, yes, there are no movies and so everybody is a superstar locally, to yes, there are movies and I can aspire to be a superstar, but if I really love theater, I will still do my plays, right? And I can still talk, deal with acting, and more importantly, unlike plays and movies, you can actually use an online lecture by a superstar or just anybody for that matter to enhance the local learning and also learn yourself, because frankly speaking, the quality of teachers, let's forget the teaching shops for the moment, where their motivations are totally different, but even places where there are not enough good teachers, but there are people who are genuinely interested in teaching, genuinely interested in increasing their knowledge. By doing this kind of tutorial teaching, they will enhance their own skills and their abilities, right? They will connect with the students locally, and I from experience, I think that connecting physically will always be important. It will always be important to look the student in the eye and mentor them physically, but the quality will go up. But you're right, there is a danger that people will say, why bother? So, but that's a fine line we have to deal with. The web fundamentally has created a situation where it's democratic, but not everybody is making money on the web. A handful of people are making web money. On who? On everybody else's content, right? So Facebook makes money on my posts and your posts. I don't make anything on it. Same thing. It's the only answer I have. Anybody? I mean, Saurav first, then maybe Nilima.
Hi. I have a very practical, just a very short-term practical question. Let's say I want to offer a course on Coursera. One of the things I hesitate about is that right now I use a book in teaching the course. I use some papers off the web. I sometimes also go ahead and use notes with permission from other people in my course, right? Now, doing that at the scale of a classroom is okay, but doing that at a web scale, what are the IP issues now? I mean, the person who has written the book probably wrote it with the intent that, yes, this can be taught in classrooms. But now I go ahead and take material from his book and start, publishing it as my course. What are the, what are the issues there? I mean, is it okay to do that, or?
It's not okay. My book, I wanted to make it available, my current, not my old book. The old book is available for 400 rupees, so I didn't bother trying to worry about it. It's available very cheaply, so not an issue. The new one, which has just not even been submitted, the manuscript, which is in the state it was when I used my old book for your course. The publisher said you can't give it to 10,000 students. You can give it to 50 at IIT, I have no problem, but not to 10,000 students. So obviously they're not going to allow that to happen, and probably rightly so if they're a publisher, right? And today you can download my book for free because there are enough pirated copies available, and I haven't bothered to worry about them. But other people worry about them. So if you're going to prevent people who have written the book from getting the royalties that they choose to get or choose not to get, I think that's something that even at IIT people should be buying the book, even if it's a low-cost edition, and not photocopying it. And your notes you're free to put up online anyway. Right?
Yeah, I'll just interrupt you here. So I'm not asking about making the book available to everybody. I'm saying I'm using the book to fill content in my lectures. Is that okay?
The lectures are your lectures. I don't think there's an IP issue in taking something from a book. If you obviously taken a quotation from a book and publish it in a paper, you will give the reference, right? So the same thing here. I mean, if your video lecture is playing, That's the other thing. See, I have not yet made my notes available to everybody in the course, and people asked me actually during the break, why didn't you do that? And I have two reasons. One is this, that I am not convinced that having all my notes distributed to thousands of people is a great idea fundamentally, because you know they're my intellectual property, and I may want to make something available to everybody, but no, I'm not sure what, right? Anyway, I'm writing a book and it's going to get published, right? The second reason is that if I have the book, the notes available, right, the slides, right, and if I had Sebastian's slides available when he was doing the board, right, if I had everything available, I would not have gone back to that video and listened to him again and again and learned better. So I think there's this business of taking notes while you listen to a lecture is a good practice. So take your own notes. I mean, you'll learn better. If you have the notes, you won't bother. I mean, it's going back a little bit to a 100-year-old type of way of thinking. But that's my view. But from the IP perspective, it's the same as using a quotation anywhere. If you give attribution, fine. If you're, for example, I used a video, for example, from Pawan Sinha at MIT, and I took his permission by email. Right? That should be okay.
My question is actually related to the various reforms. As everybody is aware, there are a lot of reforms going on in the university. So my question is actually coming from our Dean Academics, Professor Mala Srilal. But before that question, I just want to put my question that are there some online courses available in non-IT area?
I showed you. Economics, psychology, nutrition, health. I mean,
Okay.
you can just
Yeah.
go to course. There's everything. I mean.
All right. So coming back to Professor Lal's question, how can you or TCS, I mean, can our faculty be trained to develop these courses? First of all, do they need training, and what sort of training, and what can be done basically
In fact,
to have online courses in this?
let's try once again, okay, to do this. Now it will go because it's detected my old display and now it will detect the new one. Earlier it thought it already had the new display, so it didn't detect it. Hopefully it will detect it now. I'll just show you. Worked. So I mean here is how I develop the lectures. Let's just go there and show you. So I use a piece of software called ScreenFlow, and that works on the Mac, and on Windows there's Camtasia. It costs 5,000 rupees. Buy it. Right? I mean, I bought it. I mean, TCS bought it, but I bought it, right? It doesn't cost much, and you just record the lecture and use this microphone to record your voice, and it records the screen, and you're fine. You're done. You know, you just it just plays like it's playing here. Sorry, it's playing here.
It's informal meeting.
Fine, not a problem. So you just record it, right? And you convert it to a movie and upload it. I mean, it's no big deal, right? And then you develop these quizzes using the platform. The quizzes they're not lost to you. You can download an XML file so that the IP of the quiz and the question is retained with you. So that if you want to write a script and put it onto some other platform, you can do that. So you're not losing it to Coursera. So it's not a loss of IP. So it's no big deal. I mean, what the big deal is, actually doing the recording. And that takes some degree of practice. You do it and you do it again, and everybody does it differently, and that's what takes time.
Yeah, so can some ideas be thrown as to like how one should prepare, because it requires, as you mentioned, hours of preparation before you get the recording of 1 hour done. So we can give some tips as to what should be kept in mind
Just a second.
in that preparation.
I'll just show you.
how to do it. There's an online course for that also. Don't worry about it. People are sharing, and they'll share, freely. So just go and look at this course. It tells you how to do it, what his tips, his learnings, etc. I'll put this lecture online. Maybe if I have the time, I'll put something else online, how to do it. But I think the only way is to jump into the water and do it.
One question about the MOOC platform and the Moodle platform. Which one is better, easy for designing the online course?
The Moodle doesn't have the video content, right? So
you can upload the video.
Yeah, but the Moodle doesn't sort of play a video, have a question in the middle of it, play another, and doesn't assess you on that as it goes on. And Moodle doesn't have a discussion forum tied to the course the way it is. So Moodle can be used, definitely. I think Kannan Mudgale used it fairly successfully by having video lectures posted, and Moodle environment for this integrated platform is probably, I don't know, I'm not very familiar with Moodle, but I know Kannan will be better able to answer that. But having said that, there's an open source platform which does exactly what Coursera does, doesn't do it fully yet, but it's open to all of you to help them build it. And we have a team of people who are helping them build it already, open source. Make it better. Make it better than Coursera and Moodle. Let's do it. IT superpower that we are, let's do it.
And one more question about the quality, like if it's a programming course, let's say, then how do you measure the quality of the program? You ask the student or participant to submit a program, then you can't really measure the quality, how he has written the program,
Let me show you that as well. I'm not doing that in my course, but let me go to Udacity. Let me just go to Udacity's course on this thing. What happened? There's a different version of the course I just learned, that for the one which I did and the new one. Okay. So let's just go there. Okay, so if you look at this, he's got an online programming environment. You program here, and then presumably you write your answer, your question. You can upload your answer and submit it. I haven't submitted over here, but I mean, if you just sort of submit it using the this stuff, it should do something, and it's going to go and run the program and presumably run it on not just your data, but run it on something else, and said it got it wrong. Obviously, I did something wrong, and say try again and give you something wrong. And what he's got it is he tries it on different data values, not just the ones that I give it. I don't think it does standards checking, but presumably you can run a purify on it or something and do a standards check or write your own stuff. I mean, the programming language people can really innovate in this arena. There's something called JADE at Stanford, which does this for logic. So if you've done a logical derivation, JADE can check it, using some structured English. So there's a lot of innovation that one can do in this arena of automatic checking, but I haven't done that yet. I mean, my way of doing programming homework is, as I gave you a problem which, unless you do things manually, and manually should take you more than 2 minutes to do for a random question. So I want you to solve it in less than 2 minutes, and so you have to write a program. Simple.
So we can have it on lunch.
On any subject, I'll take help of 10 books. And usually I have found that on online lectures, they'll follow only one book.
I follow no book except mine.
No, I have found it that they'll follow one. Like Follows book is in graphic, so they'll follow Follows book only. They'll not touch other book, that is Hearn and Baker book.
So I think there's a reason for this. And I also follow many books. I look at a lot of material when I develop a course, or when I wrote a book. I mean, when I wrote my book, I have a lot of references. But the reason is that if you want to get a large numbers of students to buy, dozens of books, it's not fair. I mean, so it's preferable to have them have at least the material available freely through online papers or other online material, and let them buy 1 or 2 books, because it's a bit costly these days for everyone to buy dozens of books. So that's one reason probably why they use 1 book. You may use a dozen books, but having one reference means that at least there's something, the pocket is not totally destroyed. Okay, we're done?
Thank you, Dr. Gautam, for making such an enlightening presentation. I'm sure there are many questions still, but all good things must come to an end. I would request Professor Hajra to present a memento, and then we'll move for lunch. Originally, it was planned for an hour, but we'll finish it in 45 minutes because there is another session. Thank you.
Carry on. I mean, I'll just wind up. Not yet. I'm going to put this on YouTube.